Hi, this is Gali Gofar. Thank you very much for joining me here today. Today I'm going to be talking about leptin, the hormone, and a guide to how it can help you lose weight. Now I will talk about why people stop losing weight as well while dieting and give you 5 tips to help you change this immediately. So if you're finding it hard to lose weight or have reached a weight loss plateau or feel that you have uncontrolled food cravings, you may have a hormonal issue. And one of the primary regulators of body weight is our hormones, in particular the satiety hormone leptin. It is now known that leptin is a key regulator of energy balance. The leptin system evolved to keep us from starving and from excess eating, both which lower our chances of survival. Leptin is produced and released from our fat cells in response to 2 things. Number 1, it's the amount of fat tissue that we have in our body, and number 2, the previous amount of food that we ate. The hormone leptin produced from our fat cells is then carried in the bloodstream to the brain. Leptin reaches the hypothalamus area of our brain, which in turn regulates our food intake and energy expenditure. Leptin from fat cells then enters the brain cells through a receptor on the membrane, which activates certain pathways that enter the nucleus of the cell and control gene expression for proteins associated with appetite, with reproduction, and with growth and metabolism. Now, high levels of leptin reach our brain cells, and they tell our brain that the body has enough energy and it has enough stored energy, and it's time to reduce appetite, while also inducing reproduction and growth. When there are low levels of leptin reaching our brain cells, then this informs the brain that there are not enough stores of fat in the body, and that the brain should send messages to increase appetite, reduce reproduction, and reduce growth. So when we begin a new weight management program, or in other words, a diet, we start losing weight and hopefully some fat tissue we also lose. But after some time, if we just reduce the number of calories that we are eating and we don't change the foods that we are eating, then we will stop losing weight. And when weight and fat tissue is lost, the brain gets less signaling from leptin, telling the brain that there aren't enough energy stores in the form of fat. In other words, that energy stores are dwindling in the body. Then the brain induces hunger in order to increase fat cells that will raise leptin levels to what they were before we began our diet. So when we lose fat, the brain tells us that we don't have enough energy reserves and that we need to eat. The body is actually resisting weight loss, and that's why it's so difficult to lose weight. Now, this situation can be changed if we change the foods that we eat while we are losing weight. More on this in just a minute, but first I want to look into the reason why most people find it so hard to lose weight. Now, since leptin is produced by fat cells in proportion to their numbers and size, then actually obese and overweight people should have very high levels of leptin. And we know that once leptin reaches the brain, it sends the message to reduce appetite. So why doesn't this happen in most overweight individuals? Well, leptin doesn't reduce appetite in obese and overweight people because the leptin isn't entering the cells. Overweight or obese individuals may find it extremely hard to lose weight because their cell receptors for leptin have become desensitized. Or in other words, their cells become leptin resistant. The body feels that it is starving even though it has much more than enough energy stores in the form of fat. Leptin doesn't enter the brain cells, and the brain assumes that the body is starving, and in return it increases appetite and hunger and food cravings. So how does this leptin resistance happen? Well, there are 5 major factors that make a person's cells resistant to leptin. These factors in turn increase appetite and pile on pounds, leaving us feeling totally out of control over our appetite. So let's look at these 5 factors that make cells leptin resistant. Number 1, the more fat tissue we have in our body, the less sensitive our brain cells become to leptin. The brain cells need more leptin for the same effect to occur. Leptin, being produced by fat cells, is produced according to the amount of fat tissue that we have. However, leptin is similar to alcohol in its effect, that the more the brain gets, the more it gets used to the effect, and the less sensitive it becomes to the effects. And the more alcohol we actually need to produce the same effects. So with leptin, the more weight you gain, the more fat cells you have, the less control leptin will have over your appetite, and the hunger you will feel because it is simply not entering the cells. The concept behind this mechanism is that as the body size grows, more energy is needed to fuel it. Now, the tissues don't take up leptin, and leptin is left to circulate in the body. And since leptin has a structural and functional resemblance to pro-inflammatory cytokines, those that cause inflammation in the body, it has been shown to influence C-reactive protein levels, which is an indicator of heart disease, and high levels of circulating leptin. Leptin leads to inflammation in the body, and this inflammation in turn also leads to more insulin resistance and damage to our tissues, making the situation much worse with time. High levels of leptin circulating in the body also has been shown to be involved in high blood pressure, decreased fertility levels, heart disease, stroke, and diabetes. Now, another cause for leptin resistance is inflammation from other sources. Ingestion of high amounts of animal products leads to inflammation for a number of reasons. Animals have their community of microbes just as we humans have, and when meat is cooked, before it's eaten, the bacteria is killed off, but the microbes have lipopolysaccharides, or in other words known as endotoxins, on their cell membranes, which are toxic to our cells and are not removed during the cooking process. These endotoxins attach onto our receptors on our cells, and they trigger an immune response, which can cause higher permeability of the intestine wall, causing more inflammation as well as accumulation of belly fat. Now, this inflammation blocks the pathway which leptin enters the cells and the pathway where leptin influences gene expression to curb hunger and to reproduce and grow. So now the third reason is a lipid metabolite accumulation in the body. Lipid metabolites from the breakdown of fats enter the cells, inside the cells where they shouldn't be. And then there is accumulation of fat metabolites inside the cells, and they activate a protein which dampens insulin and leptin sensitivity. The cell is less sensitive to insulin and leptin. And excess accumulation of these fat inside the cells happens when we eat too much food, too much fat, or too much fructose. I also have a video on the fructose effect on your health. So when the fourth reason is when we have insulin resistance. Insulin regulates blood sugar levels and works hand in hand with leptin. Insulin also regulates leptin secretion from the cells. Now, the presence of insulin in the bloodstream increases neural pathways in the brain that indicate to the body to reduce food intake. Insulin and leptin together act in the brain to reduce appetite and food consumption. And also there are gene mutations. There are 8 gene mutations that are known to cause leptin deficiency and leptin resistance. These mutations are rare and all cause extreme obesity in infancy, as well as excessive hunger and appetite. So if you weren't extremely overweight at a young age, then this probably is not true for you. So to put it shortly, it is mostly inflammation from any source that blocks weight loss. Now that we understood the mechanism by which leptin resistance influences weight gain, how can we improve our cells to become more sensitive to leptin? Well, there are 7 ways to improve leptin sensitivity. The first one is to change the composition of your diet. If you are overweight and you find it hard to curb your appetite, or in the process of losing weight on a calorie-restricted diet, but you have reached a weight loss plateau in any way, then the only way to trigger the body back to weight loss is by changing the composition of your diet. There is no easy way about it. You can't prevent your internal control system from wanting to increase fat storage after fat stores are lost, if you continue on the same diet, unless you change your diet. So the necessary dietary changes are: number 1, of course, you must increase your fiber-rich foods in your diet. You must replace your any grains, for whole grains, fruits, vegetables, lots of fruits and vegetables, legumes of all sorts. These foods adjust the gut microbiome to induce weight loss and modify leptin and other hormones that regulate the feelings of satiety and energy intake. Now, also you want to reduce refined and processed foods. These foods increase inflammatory markers all over the body, leading to chronic inflammation and insulin and leptin resistance. Also, you want to reduce your animal product intake from your diet to no more, preferably once a week, no more than twice a week, as they have high levels of naturally occurring endotoxins and they have trans fat, which induces inflammation. These foods may also influence the microbiome in a negative way. Also, you want to choose organic if you do consume organic products and animal products on once or twice weekly basis. Go for organic animal products as they have no antibiotics, which will not reduce the range of gut bacteria that you have in your as part of your microbiome, which can lead to many health disorders as well. You also want to eat foods rich in antioxidants, since these foods reduce oxidative stress, which in turn reduces inflammation. Berries in particular are rich in flavonoids, which boost leptin sensitivity. Also, you want to reduce sugar consumption. The consumption of a high fructose diet, high fructose corn syrup, or any other sugar is associated with a reduction in leptin levels and reduced expression of leptin receptor. It was found that this is so in rats. Fructose consumption, high fructose corn syrup consumption increases levels of triglycerides and triggers inflammation, leading to leptin and insulin resistance. You want to also consume fruits separate from other foods to enjoy all of their benefits. You can see my video on this about the best food combining principles and why they are these food combining principles to understand how to separate your fruits in the best way. Okay, you also want to ensure a good night's rest. Sleep increases leptin levels. I have an extensive video on this, on sleep, if you want to go and watch it as well. Also, you want to take supplements that increase leptin sensitivity. Also, turmeric has a broad range of therapeutic properties, including enhancing leptin sensitivity as well as insulin sensitivity. Green tea contains EGCG, chemical substance which has been shown to reduce leptin resistance. Also, you want to get enough vitamin D, or from sunshine or from supplementation. You can check out my video on this as well, on vitamin D. Also, you want to exercise regularly but not too intensively. Physical exercise, when not too extreme, has anti-inflammatory properties. In response to stress from physical activity, the body produces interleukin, which goes and to the brain and produces anti-inflammatory effect, and this increases leptin sensitivity and also insulin sensitivity, and the body recognizes that we did some physical activity, and therefore automatically leptin inflammation is reduced. Now, you want to support hormonal balance by reducing stress levels in your life and have reduced the amount of exposure to environmental pollutants, especially bisphenol A. It's the highest volume synthetic chemical produced worldwide. BPA has been in commercial use since 1957, and then we see on a graph that it corresponds directly to the amount, to the obesity that we see around the world. It is found in water pipes, inside many food and beverage cans, and also in thermal paper used as sales receipts. So I would recommend not touching that paper. BPA replaced lead in most of these. BPA has estrogenic-like properties, and exposure to it has been shown to increase the amount of fat mass and elevate serum leptin levels to leptin resistance. And leptin resistance. Now, certainly bisphenol A, BPA, interferes with hormonal control of hunger and satiety. This is for sure. I do recommend removing it. Also, there is another chemical that has been linked to leptin and insulin resistance, perfluorooctanoic acid, PFOA, which is found in Teflon and other nonstick pans. So go and watch my video that I made about this, why you want to move over to stainless steel cookware. Also, there is for people with the gene mutations that I spoke about, leptin administration was approved in the United States in 2014. So I hope this video was helpful for you. I hope you liked it and you found it helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Please also subscribe to my channel and ring the notifications bell to get notified every time I upload a new video and reach your ideal optimal health so you can live the life of your dreams. So thank you very much for joining me. See you in the next video.